I hate computers. 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 Open Skype. I hate computers. I hate computers. I hate computers. I hate computers. Call Paul. I hate computers. I hate computers. I hate computers.
Good evening, Drew.
Hey, Paul.
How's it going over there?
Uh, well, I'm a few minutes late.
Mm-hmm.
I recorded a bit of a monologue as I was
Okay.
booting
All
up
right.
here, so
Okay.
feel free to include that
Okay.
in the
No,
show.
it's just there's I'm not surprised because on episodes with this particular theme, sometimes there's some issues that cause us to be a few minutes late. Which I
Yeah.
cannot wait to get to.
Oh, I'm sure you can't. I need just a moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna collect a few links that I need to share with you. Um, man, hold on. Uh, there's that, and then hang on. KWB. There's, man, if I actually did work for this show,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I would be prepared. Okay, and then Asus. Okay. All right. Okay. We'll get to my
Okay.
freaking mess
Mm-hmm.
later.
Okay.
I want to start with any kind of follow up or feedback you have from last episode, please. Please.
I don't. What did we? I don't think we have any follow up. I mean, I guess my first piece is a little bit of follow up from a while ago. I've been rocking ever since I bought my iPhone 12. I have been rocking the official Apple MagSafe uh, iPhone 12 clear case. And when I first talked about buying that case, my number one complaint was the buttons. The buttons on the case did not feel good. You
Right.
assured me that they would get better.
Oh, this is my fault.
You're a filthy, filthy liar because they only got worse.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just could not take it anymore. And I replaced my case. I'm still an Apple shill, so I bought a iPhone 12 leather case with MagSafe.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Now,
Uh-huh.
I dropped a link in there. Now remember, I have the blue iPhone 12. So there are 5 possible colors. There's Baltic blue,
Uh-huh.
California poppy, saddle brown, black, and red. Which color do you think I purchased?
What color do I think you purchased out of all of those? I am going to assume that you did blue.
Okay. You want to try one more?
Okay, black.
I went with California poppy,
Oh.
which is a bright, delightfully bright orange, and I have never been happier in my life than this. This is the phone case that has finally completed me as a person.
Well, we talked about this very combination, I believe, on a previous podcast about how the blue and the orange being complementary colors that they are, I think it looks really good. So good on you.
Yeah, yeah. I like the color so much they make a Apple Watch leather loop band in the same color. And even though I can't get it until February, I went ahead and ordered that watch band because I am just in love with this color.
Okay.
Yeah, one more quick thing. AirPods Max. Everyone joke that the case is an absolute piece of crap because it is. This particular product has been making its way across Twitter and various, podcasts and whatnot. A company called Waterfield at sfbags.com. SF for San Francisco because they want you to know where it was made. They came out with what I assume is going to be the first of many third-party travel protective cases for the AirPods Max. I got mine today. I ordered some of the first batches. I got mine today. That one I did get in black. And you know what? It's a very simple leather case, but it's very well built. I think it's going to be very protective. So I finally have a way to put my AirPods Max into my laptop bag if I wanted to travel with them. So yeah, I am happy about that.
Okay, I'm taking a look at that right now because I'm very intrigued.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a very simple leather and, nylon. I think it's like a very plush interior. It's got some
Plush.
It's got some pockets. And it boasts being able to work in two ways. Either you can put your iPhones in the case that came with it and then put that case inside of here. If you don't want to do that because you're not a monster, it has this little, they call it their magnetic leather butterfly. Essentially, it's a couple of little flaps with magnets in them that you kind of stand up and stick together. And that goes in between your AirPods. One, to keep aluminum from smacking into each other. And two, it puts them to sleep.
Huh. Okay.
So.
Well, I am very, very intrigued. So you're sticking with them then?
Yeah. I have really grown to enjoy them. Whether or not it's just a pure fact of I'm getting used to them, the weight, and my neck muscles are getting stronger. I don't find them uncomfortable as much anymore. I love the sound. I love the flexibility of being able to, walk away and be able to use the same headphones for, listening to music on my Mac and then be able to quickly switch to something on my phone and vice versa. Yeah, they're if you can get past the price and they are comfortable for you, they are great headphones. But those are two big ifs.
Yeah,
right?
those sound like relatively big ifs to me.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that things are like good for you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm glad that your life is good, and that you don't have problems like I have problems.
Welcome everybody back to Drew's Computer Corner.
Okay. All right. Oh man. All right. When we last left our hero, he had taken the hero's journey of building a custom water cooling loop and put all that together, and it was good for a little bit till it wasn't. And I had problems. I had to redo it a bunch of times. There was a lot of disassembling and reassembling and draining of my custom loop. And I got to the end of that rainbow, and there was no pot of gold. It was not worth it from a cost, time, energy. The ultimate payoff of a quieter computer running at a cooler temperature was not realized for me. Now, I'm fully willing to accept that I don't know what I'm doing. It was my first. I guess if you add up all the total time that I spent, I was on like attempt number 5.
Okay.
But it was my first go around with doing something like this. And I definitely see that if done correctly with time and patience that I don't have, okay, I bet you I could have made it work.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, I gave up. And maybe that makes me a quitter. Maybe I should have stuck with it. Maybe I should have done more. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I just know that at the end of the day, when I got my new computer case and I got my new graphics card, it made sense when I disassembled my loop to just not do it anymore. And I remember that when I finally got my new graphics card, I went to Micro Center, and because I wasn't going to do the custom loop anymore, I needed a new cooling solution for my computer. And we talked about this. We talked about how I ordered one off of Amazon. It got here. It was DOA. The pump wasn't working, because it's Drew. And I ended up going back to Micro Center, and I ended up buying a very expensive liquid cooler. And what I need you to do, Paul, is I need you to click the third link under Drew's Computer Corner here in the dock.
I have it open. Yeah, this is the one that has a little screen on it, correct?
It's the one that's got the little screen on it. Now, Okay. I'm going to do something that I never thought I'd do in my life. And that's going to say that Asus, you can eat a bag of the biggest, juiciest dicks. So, Asus, right? Paul, listen, you're a person who works with capital E, enterprise, capital S software. And you just know that there's good consumer software that we see on the Mac and sometimes we see on the PC.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm not going to take anything away from Asus. They really engineer good, like, hardware products, like motherboards. Like, they're top of the line, right? And even their laptops that they make, pretty darn good. Where Asus starts to fall down is they have this whole, like, gamer, TM line of crap called ROG, and it stands for Republic of Gamers, because we all need to belong to something because we're a force, right? and they slap ROG on products that are designed for enthusiasts and gamers and people who are not afraid to build a PC. Well, anyway, so they've got a line of CPU coolers. They make gaming mice and gaming keyboards and mouse pads and headphones and headsets, and think, you name it. I guarantee you there's something with a ROG logo on it. They make cases. I'm off on a tangent. So they make a line of CPU coolers, and I was drawn to this particular cooler for three big reasons. Number one, it's a 360 millimeter radiator. Now, again, if you're a regular listener to Drew's Computer Corner podcast, you know that when we're talking about water cooling and we're talking about thermodynamics, the idea is that hot water goes in the radiator, flows through the fins, is pushed, the warm air that is transferred to the fins is pushed out from the fans, and then cooler water goes back to the pump and the process continues. Your loop gets to a steady state. And the speed at which your pump operates and the surface area of your radiators and the efficiency of your fans determines overall cooling performance. Okay?
Right. Yes.
Okay. I wanted a 360 millimeter radiator because I'm running a Ryzen 9 processor, and I have a big beefy graphics card in there, so I want to make sure that I'm not leaving any performance on the table. Because here's the thing. These AMD Ryzen processors, the way that they do their maximum boost capability and you get the most performance out of these things is they're very temperature sensitive. So the cooler you can keep them, the better they perform. And if you want your cores to hit their maximum boost, that's what you need.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. Now, the second reason I was drawn to this is, I'll be honest, this has on the actual pump, there's an integrated LCD screen. And I like this. And I like this for a couple of reasons. One, if I want to get a quick pulse check of what's happening with my system, I can control what metrics sort of show up on that thing. So if I want to just quickly glance at my case, which is the glass case, I can quickly glance over at it, and I can see like what the operating voltage is, because it kind of rotates between them every couple seconds, and I could see what it was doing. And it's pulling that from the sensors that are available on your motherboard. And then the third reason I got this was it came with very, very nice fans. They came with Noctua radiator fans. And Noctua is, I think, pretty much universally recognized as they make some of the nicest fans that you can get. They're very durable. They're very quiet. They're very efficient. They're a very desirable part to have on your computer. Okay? Anyway. So all that being said, when I built my computer last time, I invested in this thing. And let's not dance around this. It's a $350 liquid cooler, which is high by any measurable standard.
Yeah.
Because you can get 360 millimeter all-in-one coolers for $250 or less. But this has a lot of bells and whistles. It has, you're being upcharged for the nicer fans and the LCD and the RGB effects and all the things that, I think normal people probably don't care about. But that's what you're paying for in this thing. And when I first put it together, worked great. The software that comes with this, though, is absolute dog shit. Asus makes terrible software. If you've ever tried to control your lighting or your fan curves or anything on an Asus motherboard, it's annoying bloatware that you have to install if you want to do that. And a lot of times, especially if I'm using an all-in-one cooler, I just don't bother with fan curves, period, full stop. I don't care. I just let the BIOS sort of do it because it knows what the temperature is, and if it needs to make the fans run faster, that's what it does. I don't mess around with static RPMs. I don't mess around with any of that crap. But since this has built-in RGBs and you need to configure the little LCD display and everything, surprise, surprise, you got to install their crap.
Use that software.
And you got to use that software. So I did it. Everything was cool. Until about 2 weeks ago, I decided, because I'm a fickle person, Paul. This is my fault. Okay, I decided that I didn't want my case RGB to be white anymore. I wanted it to be orange. So what's a boy to do? You fire up your crap Asus software. You go to the section where you control the lights, and you change the color. But turns out, if you do that, you are prompted to update a bunch of stuff.
Oh no!
And yeah, because this
like
has
firmware.
Okay. So, not the first time I had updated this firmware, mind you.
Okay.
And I wasn't overly concerned, so I updated the firmware. Computer reboots, and fans go to 100%. Oh, I should also mention that this particular cooler doesn't just have fans on the radiator. It has what's called a VRM fan. So there's a little fan right on the pump that sort of just circulates air around like the electric sparky bits of your motherboard that controls power delivery, which is an important thing if you're overclocking, whatever. Both of these fans went to 100%.
Oh, no.
And I like AIO coolers because they're generally quiet when they're not under load. So I was like, that's not good. And I went in and I tried to adjust fan curves. The sliders did nothing. They did nothing. I would like, because there are two fans, and you don't have to go into your mind palace very far to understand my frustration here, is that if you want to adjust the fan profile of this thing, you go into this crappy software, you basically pick radiator fan in a drop down, and then there's like a little picture of a fan curve where, like, as the temperature is, like, on the graph, it's temperature and RPM, right? X and Y. So, like, you sort of drag the curve, and I'm like, I want this to be quieter, so you drag the curve down and you hear the fan spin down. But then the little VRM fan was spinning, so then you click the drop down to the VRM fan, and turns out it just didn't want to save your other fan profile, so those go back to 100%. Some magic combination of me clicking through this thing, I finally got it on a static setting of like 60% radiator and like 25% VRM, to where the performance was acceptable. Like, it was relatively quiet and everything seemed to be perfectly fine. And that's where things were for a number of weeks. And ever since AMD has announced these new Ryzen processors that I've been trying to get, I got one. Okay, I had been kind of watching Micro Center stock like a hawk, and they managed to get in some 5900X processors this week. I drove to Micro Center, and by the way, I had been doing this a lot where I would see that Micro Center would have stock, and I don't live that far from Micro Center, but I would drive there and they'd already be sold out. Earlier this week, I had a call with a thing for work where I was on the phone from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Micro Center opened at 9 a.m. They had 25 5900Xs in stock. By the time my conference call ended, the website, which is relatively accurate, said they had 6. So I jumped in my car, drove over there, and I got one of the last ones.
Nice. Okay.
Now, again, if you've ever had to replace a processor and you're using some sort of cooling solution, there's a process involved of disassembling everything. Not nearly as involved as like draining my custom loop and replacing everything and doing all that crap. But you have to take everything apart. You have to unplug a bunch of stuff. You have to unscrew stuff from motherboards, and then you have to clean off thermal interface and everything. So I did all that. And, I put thermal paste back on, swapped the processor out, reapplied everything, booted back up. And this was literally yesterday, by the way. Recording this on a Thursday, this was yesterday where I got around to doing this. And booted it back up. And I was like, I'm gonna stress test this thing. I want to know what it's doing and how it's performing. So boot it up, and I start playing games. I start doing my thing. Everything's rock solid, no crashes. I'm like, sweet. I'm going to measure performance. I want to know what kind of boost I'm getting, because the goal of this is to have higher boost clocks, and this is supposed to be faster and good, and I paid money, and I want to see the fruits of my labor. I start kind of looking through things, right? Because it's a monitor that kind of runs in the background, and you can have it record minimum, maximum, and averages over time. My processor was hitting 85 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
That's pretty hot.
High.
It's pretty hot. Little high. I like just, there are certain people who can't buy Apple products, right? You know the type. They're just for whatever
yes, I do.
just for whatever reason they can't do it. They have some illogical sense that Apple's terrible, whatever. I'm like that, but with processor temperatures. I want my temperature to be good, right? I invested a lot of money in cooling. I feel like I have paid my dues. I just want cool. I want nice, cool processor. So I'm like, well, this thing is running a little bit higher. And unfortunately, I didn't have a baseline of what I was running before. So I have no idea. Maybe it was always running that hot. I don't know. I certainly never encountered a scenario where I was like performance throttled or anything. So I have no idea. So what do? I open crappy Asus software, and I notice that I'm currently in smart mode, which I didn't think I was. But it's not able to read the temperature of the motherboard anymore.
Oh.
So what I think was happening, I think what had happened was there were two things going on. One, I probably messed up and didn't use enough thermal compound. After I took everything apart tonight and looked at it, I bet you I could have got slightly better coverage on that. But I'm not thinking that's the end of the world. But the tool that monitors the temperature and is supposed to ramp up the fans, it literally just said processor temperature 0% or 0 degrees. So it obviously was not reporting correctly. I mean, other sensors are able to pick up the temperature just fine. In fact, I have one open right now, and I'm kind of watching my temperatures for reasons we'll get into in a minute. And it's reporting a temperature just fine. I can see the motherboard temperatures. I can see the CPU temperatures. Everything looks actually friggin' fantastic right now. So all this is to say is, Asus, you're garbage. I'm sort of done with you. I had migrated away from Asus when I built my latest build because I have a Gigabyte motherboard now, and it's been awesome. Their software isn't any better, don't get me wrong. But this motherboard is awesome. I love it. And I just had a really bad experience with this. And of course I would, right? Because this is Drew's Computer Corner. We're all here to laugh at Drew. Ha 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 ha
ha. I'm laughing.
Yeah, I know you are. But anyway, so I had a decision to make. Okay, so I got mad. I went through the stages of grief of, oh, here we go again. And I was like, okay, so what do I do? Okay, I can't very well leave this cooler on here. Even if I were to take it apart and reapply thermal paste, I still don't have a product that appears to be working with fan curves. I could run the radiator and VRM fans at a static temperature thing, but honestly, it wasn't doing that great of a job. So what I did is I went online and I started doing a little bit of research on, what's the current hotness in coolers. And there's two out there that are really good, okay? Let me grab, I forgot one link here. Arctic liquid freezer. Yeah, this guy. There's basically two AIO coolers right now that are universally sort of recognized as being really, really good. Now, the one that I ordered from Amazon, like after Christmas, because I figured I wanted this ready to go when I got my new processor. So I actually ordered this from Amazon a while ago, and it had been sitting in kind of cold storage here in my house for a while. And that is the Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 series of AIOs. These are really cool because they're very minimalistic. You would like this. They're very minimalistic. There's no RGB crap.
I dig it.
They have excellent pumps. They have a VRM fan. They have thick boy radiators. And honestly, they're like $100 cheaper than the competition. And people love them. And this is what I ordered. Now, I've installed a lot of AIOs in my time. So I just kind of left the box downstairs until, it was ready, until it was ready. So after I took apart the current build, I was like, well, I guess I'll throw this one on there and see how it does from a cooling perspective. Turns out that this isn't compatible with my motherboard.
Oh, okay.
The little brackets that you have to put on the motherboard are not compatible with mine because of some of the VRM active or VRM passive cooling that's on my motherboard. The brackets don't fit. They don't fit. Now Arctic has a form you can fill out where they're like, hey, we know motherboard manufacturers are supposed to do things to a certain specification. Sometimes they don't, and we do our best to ensure compatibility. Literally every other manufacturer has this figured out, but whatever. So I filled out the form, but I have no idea when this part's going to get here.
Okay, so they sell like an adapter or a replacement part,
like a different bracket. But from my research, it doesn't sound like you get as good coverage with it. I don't know. The jury's out. I will probably try this when and if I get the hardware from them.
Okay.
And they do this thing where like their instructions are online. I hate that. Like, I don't want to have to scan a QR code to get my manual when I'm in the middle of assembling this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that, guys. If you're a manufacturer, please don't do that. I know you're trying to like reduce waste and everything, but the fact that you include mounting hardware for conceivably every system, Intel or AMD, like, trust me, an extra paper manual, probably the least of your worries. But anyway, so I couldn't use that. So I had a disassembled computer with no cooling, and I didn't want to throw the crappy Asus one back on there. Crappy air quotes, because it was really expensive. So I went on Amazon and I reordered the same AIO cooler that failed me last time, thinking maybe I had a bad part.
Got a bum one. Okay.
Yeah, but it won't get here until like Sunday.
So what are you doing now?
I'm cooling on air.
Oh, like an animal.
I know, like in the good old days, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Except.
Did you have to get like a really
cow.
over? Okay, I saw the pictures. This is a leading question. Did you go a little overboard on your air cooling, Drew?
No, I don't think I did, Paul. I don't think I did. I think I went just right. So I ended up going with an air cooler here for two reasons. One, readily available. This cost me $100. So it's an experiment for $100 because I haven't used air cooling in, I don't know, 5-7 years. I've been an AIO person for a while now. So I haven't used an air cooler in a while. So I don't know what to expect. So I did some more research and I bought what is, I think, one of the most universally recognized best air coolers you can get. And that is the Noctua. There's that company again. NHD15. There's a link in show notes, and there are pictures on my Twitter of this thing. Holy crap, this thing is gargantuan.
Mm-hmm.
It is so big. Like, it is so big. What it is a heat pipe with two massive radiators, and boy howdy did I slice my finger open on this thing. Those little fins are sharp, but they come with two very large 140 millimeter fans that work in tandem on both of the blades of the radiator. And compared to an AIO, extremely easy install, really easy to install bracket. It is in my computer on boot. My maximum temperature was 69 degrees. Nice. My current temperature recording this podcast is 48 degrees Celsius. I'm averaging 50 degrees on air right now. Now I haven't played a game yet, and I'm a little concerned for a couple of reasons. One, this cooler is so big. Like, there is no gap between my video card and this radiator. And this video card puts out some serious freaking BTUs, bud. So that air is going to go into that radiator.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Let me take off my headphones real quick. It's every bit as quiet as my AIO.
Wow.
When we're just here talking, it's super quiet. Like, I would never know, other than the fact that there's a monolith sticking out of my computer case right now.
But recording a podcast is not stressful on a computer system.
No. But when I get done here and I fire up Call of Duty, we're gonna really see what happens. And Daddy's curious. Okay, Daddy's very curious to see what happens. But aesthetically, there's no RGB. Which whatever. I still have plenty of other RGB I can turn on if I want to. And it needs to be said, Noctua is known for their brown fans, and there's a lot of brown. So I probably want to throw some colored LEDs in here to help offset that.
Yeah, it's ugly. Those it's ugly.
It's ugly. It's ugly. You can get black, but that is sold out everywhere because I guess people do have taste. Beggars can't be choosers. Yeah. Just so you know. But that was the big adventure. So what started out as happiness of me finally getting this new AMD processor led to disappointment again, because why am I bad at this? Like, I might be bad at this. Maybe you are. Maybe I'm bad at this. Like, that is the conclusion. Like, new year, new me. Like, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just bad at this.
I can see it. No other conclusion. Oh.
It's certainly up for discussion.
Wow.
Like, I think it probably could be.
It's quite possible. Oh.
Oh my God. I'm the problem. I'm the baddie.
You're the baddie.
I'm the baddie.
Oh.
But so far it's I'm not disappointed. And when AIOs run at a high speed, they make noise too.
Yeah. Anything that spins is going to make noise at some point.
Yeah. This is just dead simple, right? There's two big radiator fins and two big fans. I'm exhausting air out the back and out the top. I did put some case fans in the top of the case to help with airflow. Yeah. Nice and chilly coming out there right now. Feels good. And got air intake in the front. And I'm excited to sort of see what happens when we get done recording.
Huh. Oh. I just want you to have nice things, Drew.
I want to have nice things, Paul. I just
want you to have nice things. I want you to not have to think about, this stuff.
But see now, okay, here's the privilege of Drew. So when this is all said and done, I'm going to have not one, not two. I'm going to have 3 coolers that are just going to be sitting in my basement because I'm going to probably, when this other AIO shows up, try it.
Of course, right.
That was my that was my absolute first choice from the jump of my tearing down my AIO loop. And the fact that was dead out of the box was really disappointing, and that's what caused me to get on this other path. But let's face it, I'm going to be like $300 more out of pocket and have a bunch of CPU coolers that I'm just not using. So if you're listening and you're in the Ohio area and you need a CPU cooler, come on down to Drew's CPU cooling corner. Get yourself a prime used, lightly used CPU cooler to fit your system. I have my head in my hands. I just don't care anymore.
I just want you to be happy, Drew. You know what? If you want to talk about comics, I could not help myself. I am still reading Sandman. I'm making progress there, but
you don't like it.
I do like it. It's just that's a lot of comics, and I don't have a very large attention span. But I could not help myself listening to you talk about how much you enjoyed The Wicked and Divine. I started rereading all of those, and I think I've got past where I stopped originally.
Where did you stop?
Well, I think I'm when I was reading, I was reading like individual issues, and I think where I stopped reading was right at the end of volume 3. So I am now in volume 4, and I'm in the break. And I basically told myself I'm not going to let myself, like, if I'm on volume 4 of Wicked and the Divine, I'm going to read volume 4 of The Sandman. I'm not going to let myself just binge. I'm going to, I'm going to read both. We're going to get through. But man, that comic is so good. It's just, I
really enjoyed it. I have not bought I never made it to the Laughing Ogre previous weekend, but my goal is to go this weekend. I definitely want to pick up a few more volumes of that because it's really good. The thing that threw me off though is when you said it was about gods, I didn't really expect it to have like Lucifer and Egyptian gods. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. I just assumed it was going to be like the traditional pantheon, and it is a little bit of that.
No,
but
there's some
kinds
deep cuts they pull from all different pantheons. There's even even some like
Japanese.
there's some like
there's
multiple gods that share this name. Which one is she? Meh. One, all of them. It doesn't matter. She doesn't know. Who cares?
We kind of flip back and forth between them, and hope you can keep up, reader.
Yeah,
like
there is a lot of characters and a lot of weird names, so sometimes it's a little like, what's her name? Okay, got it. Yes, but
However, I do want to take this time to tell you that I am now getting around to reading Saga.
Okay.
Holy shit,
it is.
Good.
Yep.
Oh my god, I'm loving it. I'm on like part 15, and that book is huge. I'm not anywhere near close to done. I'm not even like a third of the way in yet. The characters, the writing, the art style. Oh my god. I don't know why I saved this one to last, maybe because it was just such a huge book, but Saga is so friggin' good, man. It's funny.
You cannot believe, if you start looking for like best comics of all time, or people putting like list of like non-superhero comics, how often Saga is, if not number one, at least in the top 5. Like it's well regarded as like some of the best comics that have ever been made.
Yeah, I'm in. I'm all in on that comic right now. It's real friggin' good, man. And lot of little twists and turns, like really like weird sci-fi. It reminds me a lot of like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, it does have that. Oh, excuse me, my voice just went.
Yeah, congratulations on puberty.
It does remind me of like some of that, like the humor that is in there feels very British to me.
Oh, totally.
But it's not like, it's just enough comedy to make you realize like that it's not so serious all the time, because it gets real, like it goes to some dark places. Yeah, it's a very interesting storyline. Yeah. No spoilers, but if you're looking for a good story, you can do a lot worse with Saga. Worse than Saga.
Yeah. Man, just to reiterate, man, you knocked it out of the park with these selections. I finished Preacher too. Preacher was good. I mean, it's good. That's all I can say about it. It's good. Oh my goodness, so good. I'm so tired. I'm so tired, and I'm like defeated, and I hate spending money to try to fix a problem that I don't know what the problem is. I just hate it. Yep. I hate it. I hate everything about computers. Why do I work on computers?
Computers are the worst, the literal worst.
So let's turn this into programming corner real quick.
Okay, let's do this.
Yeah, Paul, back in my day when I was doing programming, if I wrote a function or I wrote a method, it's supposed to do something and return something, right?
Yes, that's usually how computers work. Yes, in fact, that is still how they work.
It's still how they work, but instead of returning like an integer or a string or a true or false or heaven forbid null, where I find myself these days, I find myself writing some .NET code again, and it's been a long time since I've done that. In fact, I kind of stopped being a programmer and started being like a full-time DBA right around the time that .NET got huge, okay? And I've been kind of bemoaning this fact on Twitter a little bit, and I need your help with something. There's a lot of methods when I'm looking at programming, and specifically with web apps, whether it's like Razor pages or writing an API or something.
There's a reason for that.
Okay. I'm sure you're going to tell me, but hold on.
If you want me to, I certainly will.
I do, because a lot of web apps, services are decoupled, and you have to call APIs to do stuff, and I get all that. I'm hip to that architecture. I get it, but I don't understand why methods these days are of type task. Like, I don't understand the whole concept of a task method type or like an async, because what this is all in service of is there are so many methods that require async methods or async capabilities, but you can't just like get a result because it's async. You have to wait. I get it. I get the concept of async.
Yes.
But
so okay.
Help.
So let's take a step back. Okay. So web applications. Okay. So like if you're writing a typical console application or a game or something, like you're using a lot of the processor just doing your own work, right? Like you are making the computer do work. Modern enterprisey web apps, they really don't do a lot of work, right? At least on the processor, right? A lot of times, like, you hit a web page and it's serving up some content, and then that content calls some APIs on your own server or something else, and that maybe calls another downstream set of APIs, or it talks to the database, right? So a lot of the work is happening not on the machine that the request is originating from, right? They're happening on other servers, they're happening on the database. And the computer spends a lot of time waiting, right? Just waiting for things to happen. That whether it's, heck, it can be something as like going to the file system, right? And pulling a file off the disk. It spends a lot of time waiting. So what you had in like the kind of first generation of modern web apps, when we hadn't really kind of figured out a good pattern for describing like asynchronous behavior, is like, you made that request in, and then it would make a couple of API calls and a database calls. And during that time, that thread, right, that core, that part of the processor just did nothing. It was just sitting there, just waiting for potential, just waiting for something to happen so it can go back up. It goes, oh, okay, the database results are back. I now can do something with them and return a result and whatever. And, we try to get around this by, having thread pools where like a request would come in and there'd be a thread ready for it. And, obviously modern CPU architectures would try to be smart and try to like process more threads than it has physical cores. But at the end of the day, like it was really hard for a modern web app to really use all of the compute that was given to a server, right? It was hard because they was just spending so much time waiting. So, these really, really smart computer nerds, started introducing some concept to say like, hey, why don't we introduce some, asynchronous functions or asynchronous behaviors to these applications? So, when we make that database call or make that network request or call to the file system, we know that's going to take time. We can give that thread to another task and have it do something. So, like, not only are we better using the processor, we can actually do more. We can handle more requests on the same level of hardware. And at the beginning, those were so clunky. They were hard to use, so people just didn't do them. And, when Microsoft kind of pivoted and moved away from, the traditional classic legacy, .NET framework versions 1 through 4 or whatever, and they moved to .NET Core, they really took advantage of the time that, hey, we're kind of get to reinvent the wheel and really, make a set of modern APIs, especially for web development, but for all development, that recognizes this problem, right, and builds in a much more elegant solution right into the framework, kind of, as I like to say, like digging that pit of success for developers. And there are multiple patterns, like, JavaScript often uses like callbacks or promises. Those are very big there. But the .NET Core, they kind of went with this method of, like, for example, say you want to go to the database and you're trying to retrieve just one single result, right? I just want one thing. I'm selecting count something from a table where blah, blah, blah. I want a number back, right? And traditional synchronous programming, right? You do an execute scalar to get one result and you get that result right away, right? And if the computer is waiting for SQL Server to respond, you're waiting. The processor's just sitting there doing nothing, just sitting idle. And what Microsoft has done is they've basically said, well, instead of returning just that scalar value, we're going to return this thing called a task. And the task represents essentially a bit of work that will eventually be done. And they also introduced some language features to, C#. I think they're also in VB.NET, but who cares about that anymore? No one does that. To basically say, hey, we know asynchronous programming is hard, but we're going to basically add some keywords to the language to make it easier. So conceptually, logically, and I think most importantly, visually, the code looks like it's happening where, you're doing something, you're going to the database, you're getting that result, and you're doing something with it, right? You don't have to write any kind of callbacks or event handlers to handle all the weird stuff, which is what you used to have to do with .NET. It was ugly as heck. It was gross. It was hard to handle exceptions or errors. That programming model is basically called async await. It's not only used in .NET framework. There are other languages, there are other libraries that kind of use the same kind of paradigm. But I think the .NET framework implementation is especially really good, especially when you start talking about error handling and how it, how exceptions bubble up and how it just all kind of works. But it is, it does add some visual clutter because you do have to remember that, hey, if my method returns a task, I have to mark it with the async keyword to let the compiler know that this is returning not something, but something that could be done later. And then you have to use the await keyword when you're calling that method to basically. The await is kind of the await is the magic, right? That's really where the genius of Microsoft implementation happens, right? Because if you think about, a web application, right, something spins up and, the framework basically dedicates, hey, I have this pool of resources, these pool of threads that are just hungry to do work. When your code comes along and it hits that await. So await some method that returns a task, right? So at that point, eventually the code execution hits a point where it's doing that actual database call. So it's waiting on a different server to return. What the await keyword really does is says, okay, I need, eventually that's going to process, I'm going to get a result. But that could be, between 1 millisecond and who the heck knows, an infinite, some unknown amount of time. So what it can do is it can very nicely take that thread that was doing your work and have it do something else. It can start a new web request. It can, it could respond to another await, another task that just finished, right? And keep doing that work. So your processor is spending less time waiting. You're making a better use of your hardware. You can handle more requests. And as long as you kind of stick to that model, I think it's relatively easy to write asynchronous code that's more work. Because honestly, a lot of the APIs now in .NET Core, where in capital F framework, there was a synchronous and asynchronous version. Now there is only the asynchronous.
So that, first of all, it's a really good explanation, and I appreciate that. So let me now having said all that, let me tell you my specific use case and why I'm having such a hard time. So I'm working with Razor pages.
Okay, so you're doing MVC?
And it's kind of like MVC,
okay,
but not. I think it's a little more simplified than MVC, from what I understand. But here's the crux of what I'm doing. I created a sample app with the boilerplate code, and what I was trying to do is I was trying to take the standard app and add a page where someone could upload a document. Now, there's examples all over the place. Take your pick. Microsoft Docs, Stack Overflow, other websites, blogs, whatever, that talk about how in a Razor app, you build the form, and then the page that's like the controller behind the scenes calls this method that takes the document and does something with it, whether it's save it to storage or read it or whatever. As a simple like proof of concept, my goal was that once somebody submitted that form, I wanted to take that document and do an API call.
Okay.
The calling of the API, pretty easy. But the method that's in the sample code is a method that is a task method. And after it was done uploading the file, I wanted it to take the result that I received from the API and print it on the screen. But I couldn't figure out how to do that because this task is expecting to only return a task and not any like content that would be rendered on the screen. And I guess, do I need to decouple that task and put it in a different method and call that from the main method? Or like, how would I don't understand how to decouple that.
So is this the result that you're returning from your controller back to the Razor page for rendering? Okay.
Yes.
So you don't have to return. Well, oh geez, it's been a long time since I've done this. Yeah.
But I want to is the problem.
So you're probably returning a task of action result?
Yes, something like that. Something very similar, yes.
Oh, geez. I am just not super... Okay. So you should be... So if you want... Okay. So is... there are so many implementation details that are so hard to get through.
I know.
Without looking at the code.
Tell me about it.
So... when you're uploading the form, are you doing, are you making a web HTTP call where the page isn't refreshing? It's just making, we used to call this back in the day an AJAX request. Are you actually submitting the form?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There's no JavaScript involved here. No.
So obviously you probably have two different methods, right, in your controller. You have one that responds to the get, which is returning your just plain old content with your empty form. And then you have another one that's handling the post. Okay.
So let me do this. Let me see if I can find the example I was using here.
Okay.
Razor page upload file. Okay, hang on. Okay, so I'm gonna put a link in the docs here real quick because this was the one I was using where I can actually get the form to accept my content. I can actually, if I don't make it a task method and just have it take the contents of the upload and actually throw it into the page, it works. So take a look at that example there.
Going there now.
So it's a very simple Razor page that there's a field for a file upload, and then the page model has the bind property and it's public async task. And all it's doing is it's uploading the file and then it's just, it's done. And I totally get it because after that you just want it to go back to the form. But maybe I want it to call the API in here and get the result and put it on the screen when it goes back to the controller. I don't understand how to get it to do that.
Well, I think what you're really missing is the thing is okay. So we have all that. And so I think, let's see if I can. Okay. So here, I'm going to drop another bit in there. So it looks like, hold on. I now have way too many things open now. Holy crap. Okay. No, we're good.
Slow down, buddy.
Okay. So I think you should still be able to. Oh, that's on the page model. Hold on. Nope, that may not be good. Hold on. Okay, nope. You are doing. So you're using so you have a page model that is kind of like the code behind for that screen. Okay, so you have some sort of page and you have some sort of model object behind it, right? Is that what you're doing? So for those of you who aren't programmers, essentially we're talking about the view is what you would consider to be the application, right? It's the bits on the browser, it's the HTML, it's the CSS, it's the stuff that makes pixels light up on your screen and look like text, not text or cats, right? So in this particular model, what he's using, there's what's called the page model, which is kind of the code, the logic behind there, right? It can pull data, it can do stuff like that, right? So I think on your on post async, right, which is what was handling the post, after you do your await some sort of API call, I think you should still be able to set the view data, right, which is like this dictionary, this big bucket of things that you can set for the view. And then if you look at that example I sent you there, you might have to do something a little bit more fancy. It's like, hey, if this view data is set, display this message, or something like that. But I think you could use that to kind of get your result and display a message back on the screen. Right? Does that kind of make sense? Okay.
It does. Yeah. It does. So I was probably, I'm not making this easy on myself. I'm using Razor Pages, which I've never done before. I'm using MVC, which I've never used before. I'm using .NET, which I haven't used in years. I'm not making this easy on myself. I'm a dummy. Okay. But I just couldn't wrap my head around, well, this needs to be an async method, but I can't return content back to the browser to get a result in my debugging.
So that's what that view data is. It's kind of like this big slop bucket bag that you can shove information into that when your method returns is available for the view to use.
So then when it re-renders the page, it throws that into that slot.
Yep. Yeah,
right,
so
that makes sense.
You might want to try that. And obviously, like the example that I'm giving you here isn't dealing with async stuff, but there's no reason you shouldn't be able to set that view data as part of your on post async. I can't imagine would have any issues with that.
That's what I'm kind of worried about, because in the example that you showed here, right, it is setting that view data confirmation, but notice that it's a public void on post. It's not a task. Am I going to be able to return view data from a task?
You should be fine, because you shouldn't because in the example you sent me, right, like they're not returning a task, right? That's just kind of like, it's just kind of happening for you behind the scenes. Or you are, because there's an await, but you should be able to do stuff after your await. And then it should work. And if it doesn't work, just shoot me a message and I'll help you troubleshoot. I'll close my eyes and pretend that I'm not supposed to be seeing anything I'm not supposed to be seeing. But I can focus on the code that needs to be.
I
will gladly pair with you. Yep.
This isn't customer facing work. This is in service of something else that I was doing, and it would have been a solution if I knew how to do it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So I think you'll be able to take those two different examples and combine them together to make something that works. I'm confident.
That makes sense.
I don't think necessarily your issue is with the asynchronous of it. I think your issue sounds more like you're learning something new and you don't understand everything about it. I'll be absolutely blunt. Like, asynchronous programming is not easy, right? It's a difficult concept to get your head around. The idea that, your computer is literally, your program is literally waiting for something else to happen to continue. The way that .NET Core does it with, the tasks and the await keyword, I think is a really elegant solution. I could get into really some super technical details about all the hurdles that they're doing to handle things like when things blow up, and it's just absolutely incredible. But it can be kind of daunting when you see the stuff. You're like, I don't understand what this is doing. Yeah.
Yep. That's me. That is me in a nutshell right now.
Yep.
Nailed it. Got it in one.
That can definitely be, it can be. Learning anything with programming is like you go through phases where I don't understand how any of this works. That's the second phase of, I got something simple to work. I am now a god among men.
Oh, totally.
And then the oh wait, I need to do something else. That's not on the documentation. Oh my god, so this is a horrible profession. Why did I choose to do this for a career? Right? I mean,
God, I'll be honest, man. I've had a rough week since I've been back from vacation, and man, I've had all those feelings this week for a number of reasons. I seriously question my capability to do my job this week.
It happens, really, and
that is a cry for help.
And being a developer, I mean, it's not all sex and rock and roll, right? Like, as
it is no sex, probably.
Being a developer is difficult because not only do you have to understand, you have to understand what you're building the software for and understand like what the problem you're trying to solve is deeply. You also have to make the computer do that stuff, and technology is always changing. And it's not like other engineering professions where like we have figured it out and like this is how you build a bridge or an airplane. No, software is just all malleable. It's all awful. It's like building a hotel on quicksand. It's always changing. It's I say that as someone who isn't a developer anymore. Hashtag middle management. But I used to be. I play a developer on TV. It's tough. It's especially when you're trying to do two things at once. You're trying to build something new and understand a new technology. It can be real frustrating. Yeah, my heart goes out to you, Drew.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's why as the developers, we're trying to be better and trying to help other people more. And, there's sites like Stack Overflow, which isn't always perfect because especially in that beginning stage where you don't know how to craft a good question or do a good Google search because you're still kind of unfamiliar with the terminology and, yeah.
Well, that also played into it because there's a lot. I mean, again, I have not done a lot of .NET programming outside of console applications, or I mean, really, PowerShell is a little bit of .NET behind the scenes too. But that it hinders my ability to get the right answer.
You don't know the nouns to ask the question. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
This
was an episode. Holy cow!
This was all over the place.
Oh. It really was. I think these are our best episodes, though.
Sometimes, dude, I'm just excited that we had Drew's Computer Corner. I love those episodes.
I really hope it doesn't come back. It may come back next weekend if I have more adventures in AIOs that I bought and don't end up using, but we'll see.
What I need to do is get all the episodes that this story was told in and make like a super cut.
Oh my god! For when we're on vacation or something.
Yeah, the best of.
Oh my god, that's such a good idea. Hey, not for nothing though. Does Zach need an AIO?
He has one, but
does he want a really good one?
You know what? We should talk later, not tonight, because I have some ideas.
All right.
/ problem / stuff. Maybe that'll be next episode. Okay.
All right. Fair.
All right, man. Hey, we should wrap the show up like we normally do.
Yeah, we should.
Hey, we're on the internet. Maybe you've heard of it. Doingtheirbest.com. You can find all the episodes there, all the show notes. You can send us an email through there. You can reach out to us on Twitter at DoingBestPod. I'm at Paul Baylor on there. If you don't know how to spell my last name, tough shit. Where can we find you, Drew?
I'm on Twitter at Pitfurg, PITTFURG, and probably making websites out of Razor pages in the near future.
I'm very excited. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Peace. Bye.